All right, buckle up everybody, because today we are diving deep into the legendary city of Ayodhya.
Straight out of the Ramayan.
Exactly. And, it's not just some mystical place. It's the way it's described, in these ancient texts, it sounds like a real bustling city.
Oh, absolutely.
And not just any city, but one that was centuries ahead of its time.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible when you start to dig into the details.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
We've got all the sources lined up, and trust me, you guys, some of this stuff is mind-blowing. I mean, where do we even begin?
Well, I think one of the most fascinating things about Ayodhya is that it's not just a backdrop for these epic battles and divine drama,
Right.
It's the descriptions actually offer a glimpse into this society with advanced, urban planning.
Oh, yeah?
Social structures, and even hints of technology that seem almost impossible for their time.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, how did they know? Okay, but first things first, Ayodhya wasn't some, tiny village, right?
No, not at all.
The Ramayan says it was built by Manu.
The first ruler of mankind.
The first ruler of mankind. And get this, it was 12 yojanas long and 3 yojanas wide.
That's right.
For those who, like me, had no idea what a yojana is, it's about 8 to 10 miles.
So you're talking about a city that could potentially stretch over 100 miles.
Wow. Okay, so not just some ancient town, this was a sprawling metropolis.
Yeah.
Bigger than a lot of cities today, even. And they weren't just mud huts either, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm picturing those grand descriptions. Royal highways sprinkled with water.
Adorned with flowers, gateways, archways, buildings with these beautiful courtyards.
Stop. You're making me want to book a flight. But seriously, it sounds like they were going for both beauty and practicality.
Exactly. Imagine walking those streets, right? The vibrant colors, the scent of flowers.
It's like a sensory overload.
Constant activity, just this thriving, bustling city. And, it wasn't just aesthetically pleasing. They were apparently quite advanced.
Okay, spill the tea. What kind of advanced are we talking about here?
Well, the Ramayan mentions all sorts of machinery, weaponry, skilled craftsmen.
Craftsmen, I can see that.
Even hundreds of batteries of cannons.
Wait, cannons?
Yeah.
In those times.
Yeah.
It's hard to fathom, right?
I know, it's like cannons. Seriously. Okay, so we've got this massive, technologically advanced city, but what about the people? I mean, was it all just kings and warriors, or what? What was life actually like in Ayodhya?
Well, the texts actually point to a remarkably well-structured society.
Oh, interesting.
With a strong emphasis on the absence of poverty,
Yeah.
There were abundant resources for all.
A utopia.
It seems that way. It even states that no household was without unearned means.
Unearned means. Okay, hold up. Break that down for me. What does that even mean in an ancient context?
It suggests a system where every family had access to wealth or resources, perhaps through some form of communal ownership, or maybe even an early form of social safety net.
Whoa, that's pretty progressive for those times. Right. And then there's this concept of Kutumba, a family unit of 10 members. It highlights the importance of, communal living and support.
So not just individual wealth, but a system designed to take care of everyone. That's incredible. But it's not just about material well-being, right? The Ramayan keeps mentioning how virtuous the citizens were.
Yes.
Content, generous, truthful. It sounds almost too good to be true. I mean, was this just some idealized version of society?
Well, it's certainly possible there's some element of storytelling, idealizing things.
Sure.
But it's interesting that the text also points out the absence of, negative figures like thieves, liars, or the greedy. It's as if anyone who might disrupt this societal harmony just didn't exist.
Maybe it's not so much about individuals being inherently good, but more about a system that, encourages good behavior. If everyone's taking care of and upholding these values, there's just less incentive for
deceit or crime.
Exactly. But all this abundance, unearned means, where was all this wealth coming from? I mean, were they printing money back then?
Well, specific industries aren't explicitly named, but the text constantly talks about overflowing granaries, livestock, and precious gems.
Okay, so they were rich, but how?
It points to a robust economy, probably driven by a combination of agriculture, trade, and remember, we talked about their craftsmanship.
Right, those cannons weren't going to build themselves.
Exactly.
So advanced craftsmanship, too. Okay, it's wild to think they had such a thriving economy without exploiting others or resorting to
shady practices.
Yeah, shady practices.
Yeah.
At least that's how the Ramayana tells it. Speaking of fascinating details, this one really blew my mind. Scholars had to wear earrings.
Oh, yeah.
But not just any earrings. The designs actually indicated their level of education. You just look at someone's bling and instantly know their,
Intellectual clout.
yes, their intellectual clout. So not just a utopia, but a fashionable one too.
Apparently so.
It makes you wonder what it would have been like to walk those streets, the sights, the sounds, the smells.
Oh, absolutely. It's a captivating thought, isn't it? To be a fly on the wall in ancient Ayodhya, imagine the bustling marketplace, the lively debates among those scholars.
Wearing their fancy earrings.
Of course, the rhythmic sounds of music and dance from the theaters mentioned in the text.
A city that never sleeps. And amidst all that, you have these Vedic scholars
The keepers of knowledge.
maintaining those ritual fires steeped in those ancient texts. They weren't just bookworms though, right? I mean, they had real impact.
Absolutely. Their role extended beyond just preserving knowledge. The Ramayan outlines these strict rules for receiving donations, emphasizing ethical conduct and preventing greed.
So checks and balances in place.
Exactly. And they were obligated to share their knowledge freely with deserving students.
Passing the torch.
This beautiful cycle of learning and giving.
I love that. But this idyllic city with its focus on, virtue and prosperity, surely they weren't naive to the realities of the world. I mean, they had those cannons, right?
You're right. The Ramayan is very clear about Ayodhya's military prowess.
And strategic importance.
And strategic importance, yes. It's described as an unassailable one. They had moats, bastions.
And cannons. Let's not forget the cannons.
Of course, those infamous hundreds of batteries of cannons.
It almost seems like a contradiction, doesn't it? This peaceful, utopian society with a military that could rival any empire. Why all that firepower if they were so focused on peace and harmony?
That's a great question, and it really gets to the heart of what makes Ayodhya so fascinating. It challenges our assumptions about ancient civilizations. Perhaps their military strength wasn't about aggression or conquest, but something else entirely.
Okay, now you've really got me hooked. What else could it have been about? I'm dying to know more.
If you recall, right before the break, we were discussing Ayodhya's military and how it doesn't quite line up with their, seemingly utopian society.
It's almost like having a state-of-the-art security system on a house built on trust and shared values. Like you wouldn't expect to need it, but I guess better safe than sorry, right? But seriously, what was with all the firepower if they were so peaceful?
Well, it's possible that for Ayodhya, military strength wasn't really about aggression.
Oh, interesting.
But more about safeguarding their way of life, protecting their prosperity, and ensuring that stability that allowed their society to thrive.
So like a deterrent. Basically saying, hey, we're peaceful, but don't mess with us.
Exactly. It's not about going out to conquer, but about protecting what they built.
Makes sense. But strength alone doesn't really create a society like theirs, does it? I mean, there had to be more to it.
You're absolutely right. And that's where things get even more interesting. Remember how the Ramayan mentioned Ayodhya being designed like Ashtapada, game board?
Oh yeah, like a giant chessboard. What was that all about? Did they actually plan their city around a game?
Well, Ashtapada, it's an 8x8 grid. It's a game of strategy, calculated movement. So while the text doesn't explicitly say Ayodhya was laid out like a giant chessboard, it does hint at a design that was highly organized, maybe even symmetrical.
So they might have planned districts or zones very strategically, like with an emphasis on efficiency and flow. That's crazy to think about. That level of urban planning existed back then. I mean, we usually associate grid-like city layouts with modern times.
It definitely challenges our assumptions, doesn't it? It suggests an understanding of urban design that we don't usually associate with ancient civilizations.
Yeah, and this commitment to order and planning, it seems to be a recurring theme with them. Their social structure, their economic system, even their military, it all points to a society that really valued balance and structure.
Precisely. And maybe it's this principle of order, of balance, that allowed Ayodhya to achieve such a remarkable level of harmony and prosperity.
It's like they created a system where everything just worked together. Like individual well-being tied to the well-being of the whole society. It's a pretty compelling model, even by today's standards.
It offers a glimpse into the aspirations and values of this ancient culture, maybe even a reflection of real-world achievements that have just been lost to time.
Lost to time, that's both fascinating and a little bit sad. It's interesting how relevant these concepts from Ayodhya feel today, like ethical conduct, communal support, sustainability. These are things we're still grappling with in the 21st century.
It's a testament to the power of these ideas that they still resonate with us after thousands of years. And maybe it's a reminder that we can learn from the past, that wisdom and innovation aren't limited to modern times.
You're absolutely right. Sometimes it feels like we're reinventing the wheel, when maybe we should be looking back at how they tackled these challenges back then. But enough philosophizing for now. Let's get back to the details. We've talked about the city, the people, the society, but what about the origin story? Like, where did it all begin? How did Ayodhya become this incredible city?
Now we're getting to the heart of the Ramayan's narrative. While the exact details of Ayodhya's founding aren't laid out explicitly, it's consistently placed within the lineage of the Ikshvaku dynasty.
The Ikshvaku dynasty.
A line of kings that trace their ancestry back to Manu.
Hold on, Manu. As in, the first ruler of mankind, Manu.
The very same.
So are we talking about a city that's been around since, like, the dawn of civilization?
It's certainly a captivating thought, isn't it?
I mean, wow. It's like Ayodhya is not just a city. It's a symbol of their civilization's roots, a testament to their lineage and legacy. But this Ikshvaku dynasty, were they just figureheads, or did they actually shape Ayodhya's destiny?
Oh, they were far from figureheads. The Ramayan portrays them as righteous and powerful rulers who expanded their kingdom and influence over vast territories. And Ayodhya, as their capital, naturally became the center of power, a strategic hub.
So it wasn't just about being beautiful and well-planned, it was also about location, power within the region. And to hold on to that power, well, they needed to be prepared, right?
Precisely. Remember those descriptions of Ayodhya as an unassailable one with fortifications, moats, and, those infamous cannons. It was designed to be a stronghold, capable of withstanding any threat.
Those cannons, man, they really are the wild card in this whole story. It's almost like they had access to technology that, we're only beginning to understand now. It makes you wonder what else we don't know about ancient civilizations and their capabilities.
That's the big question, isn't it? Ayodhya, with its sophisticated urban planning, social harmony, military might, it challenges our understanding of what was possible back then. It's just a tantalizing glimpse into a world we're only just rediscovering.
It's like we have this giant puzzle, but only a few pieces, and every new discovery just raises more questions. But before we go completely down that rabbit hole, there's one more thing about Ayodhya that just blows my mind. The name itself. Ayodhya, it literally means unconquerable, or not to be warred against. It's like a declaration of invincibility built right into the city's identity.
It's a powerful statement, and it highlights the significance Ayodhya held for them. It wasn't just a city, it was a symbol of strength, of resilience, an embodiment of their spirit.
Unconquerable. Wow. And when you consider everything we've learned, the grandeur, the sophistication, the ethical foundation, the military, it's not hard to see why it earned that name. It really feels like the culmination of everything we've talked about so far. But, there's still one piece missing. One crucial element that brought Ayodhya into being in the first place.
You're talking about the why, the purpose behind its creation, the story at the very heart of Ayodhya's existence.
Exactly. We've explored the what, the how, but now it's time to uncover the why. What was the driving force behind the creation of this legendary city? It's been quite a journey, right? I mean, this city is like a utopia, advanced, prosperous, peaceful, but also packing some serious heat with that military. And to top it off, it was built by Manu himself, the first ruler of mankind. It sounds like something out of a fantasy novel, but the details are so specific it really makes you wonder how much of this is actually true.
It's the question that keeps drawing us back to these ancient texts, right? The whole myth versus reality thing. But even if some details are embellished, they still tell us something about the people who created these stories, their values, their beliefs. And when it comes to Ayodhya, the Ramayan makes it clear that its creation, it wasn't just about, finding a nice place to settle down. There was this deeper need, a longing for something more.
Okay, so it wasn't just about strategy or resources. What was this deeper purpose behind Ayodhya?
Well, the story goes that Manu, seeing all the suffering and chaos in the world, he yearned for a place where righteousness and order could prevail. He imagined a city that would be this beacon of Dharma, a model for how humans could live in harmony, with each other and the cosmos. And that vision, it led him to establish Ayodhya.
Wow. So Ayodhya wasn't just a city, it was an ideal, a blueprint for a better world. No wonder they went through all that trouble to make it unconquerable. But could one city really change the course of history?
That's a question at the very heart of the Ramayana, isn't it? Can human actions, even the creation of a city as amazing as Ayodhya, actually overcome those forces of chaos and darkness? The epic itself tells the story of constant struggle, the battle between good and evil, right and wrong. And Ayodhya, in a lot of ways, it represents that struggle to create and maintain a just and harmonious society, even when the world seems determined to tear it apart.
It makes you think about the challenges we face today, doesn't it? That constant push and pull between those who want to build a better world and those who are driven by, I don't know, greed, power, or just chaos. It feels like that battle is timeless.
And that's why these stories like the Ramayan, they resonate with us even now. They remind us that this fight for justice, for a world where everyone can thrive, it's a fight worth having, even if it's a fight that never really ends.
It's inspiring in a way to think that people back then were wrestling with the same big questions that we're still asking today. And it makes Ayodhya even more fascinating, knowing it wasn't just about buildings and military strength, but about something deeper, something that speaks to what it means to be human.
Exactly. And maybe that's the biggest takeaway from our deep dive into Ayodhya. It's a reminder that human civilization, at its best, is capable of amazing things, of creating beauty, fostering harmony, and striving for ideals that are bigger than ourselves. That's a powerful thought, and one I hope our listeners carry with them.
Well said. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our journey into Ayodhya. It's been an incredible exploration, full of surprises, insights, and maybe even a little inspiration. We've uncovered a city that's both a product of its time and a reflection of these timeless human aspirations.
And who knows, maybe there are more secrets hidden within the Ramayan just waiting to be discovered, waiting to shed even more light on this fascinating, enigmatic city.
The possibilities are endless. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep discovering the wonders of the past. Who knows what other treasures are out there, just waiting to be found.